In the rust-choked outskirts of Port Havelock, nothing was meant to be pure. Even the sky wore a permanent bruise of orange and gray, stained by 1,000 factory chimneys that never slept. Ships from 100 star systems arrived daily, unloading freight, fuel, weapons, and sometimes quietly lives. Kael Mercer lived here by choice and by accident. Once he had been a starship engineer on military cruisers, the kind that cut through space like knives through silk. But after the war, after the explosion that killed his wife and flattened half his crew, Kael drifted to the fringes of civilization where broken machines and broken people ended up together. He opened a small repair bay near the docks, fixing anything that still moved. Scrap ships, cargo haulers, mining rigs held together with prayers and weld lines. He liked machines because they were honest. If something was broken, it showed you. People didn't. That afternoon, as acid rain tapped softly against the metal skylight of his shop, Kael locked up early. Supplies were low, credits lower. He needed parts, real parts, not scavenged junk. So against his better judgment, he headed to the market. The Black Spine Bazaar wasn't officially legal, but nothing on Port Havelock truly was. It stretched like a living organism under the docking platforms, glowing with bioluminescent signs and flickering holos. Vendors sold stolen tech, alien artifacts, illegal cyber augments, and slaves. Kael tried never to walk the lower rings where the cages were. He failed that rule today. He heard the crowd first, sharp laughter, betting shouts, translators buzzing in a dozen languages. Curiosity pulled him closer before common sense caught up. Then he saw her. She sat inside a transparent containment field, small compared to the towering species around her. Her skin was pale blue with faint, silver vein lines that pulsed slowly like starlight under ice. Two delicate frills curved behind where human ears would be. Her eyes, large, dark, and unblinking, stared into nothing. A sign hovered above the cage in glowing red glyphs. Defective, low value. The auctioneer barked through a translator collar. Orinx child. Genetically flawed. Auditory failure. Useless for communication, labor, or bonding. The crowd booed softly. Deafness in the Orinx species wasn't just a disability. It was a social death. Kael didn't mean to stop. He didn't mean to care. But when her eyes flicked upward and met his through the glass, something inside his chest shifted painfully. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She just looked empty. How much? Kael asked quietly. The auctioneer sneered. A human wants damaged merchandise? Kael didn't answer. He transferred the credits. The field dropped. The girl collapsed forward slightly as if gravity itself startled her. And just like that, Kael Mercer owned a deaf alien child. Middle. Her name, according to the datapad implanted at the base of her neck, was Saera. Orinx were a sonic-based species. Their world was built on resonance, echolocation, harmonic language. Sound wasn't just communication to them, it was identity, culture, survival. To be born without it meant exile. Saera didn't speak. She couldn't hear. Or so they said. Kael prepared a corner of his workshop for her. He brought blankets, unfamiliar alien nutrient packs, gentle lighting. For days she barely moved. Her eyes followed him everywhere, cautious and alert, like a feral animal waiting for the moment it would need to run again. But nowhere existed to run to. Kael tried to talk to her out of habit. "Food's here," he said softly one night, sliding a tray toward her. "You don't have to be scared." She didn't respond. He felt stupid for expecting anything. Days stretched into weeks. Slowly, Saera began exploring the shop, touching engines with careful fingers, watching sparks with quiet fascination. She never startled at loud noises. When plasma cutters screamed, when engines roared to life, nothing. Just the empty calm. One evening, Kael accidentally dropped a heavy tool tray. It crashed to the floor with a thunderous clang that echoed through the bay. And Saera flinched. Just slightly. Almost imperceptible. Kael froze. He did it again. Tapped the metal bench hard with a wrench. Her eyes flicked toward the sound. Kael's heart began to pound. That night, while Saera slept curled in her blankets, he ran a deep medical scan over her implant. What he found made his blood run cold. Her auditory nerves were fully functional, perfectly intact. The implant in her neck wasn't diagnostic. It was a suppressor. Someone had artificially disabled her hearing. The next day, Kael tested carefully. He stood behind her, far out of her line of sight, and softly whispered her name. Saera. Her frills trembled. She turned. Fear exploded across her face as she realized what had happened, that she had reacted. She backed against the wall, shaking, hands raised in a defensive posture that spoke of training and punishment. Kael dropped to one knee immediately, hands open, voice gentle. It's okay. You're safe. I won't hurt you. She trembled harder. Slowly, trembling with rage and sorrow, Kael reached for the suppressor. One precise cut. The implant fell silent. Sound flooded back into Saera's world like a shattered dam. She gasped, literally gasped, as if she'd been drowning her entire life and only now surfaced for air. The hum of the generators. The distant ships. The soft hiss of hydraulic pistons. Her knees buckled. She collapsed into sobs that were half terror, half relief. Kael caught her before she hit the floor. From that moment on, everything changed. Saera began speaking in halting, musical Orinx syllables. Kael used a translator band. Slowly, her story emerged. She was not defective. She was royal. Daughter of the Orinx Emperor. Born with an extremely rare genetic trait. Dual-spectrum hearing, allowing her to perceive both sound and gravitational resonance. She could hear through space itself. It was a threat to the ruling council. Power like that could overthrow dynasties. So they erased her identity, implanted the suppressor, and sold her as broken. If anyone discovered who she truly was, the consequences would be galaxy shaking. And they had. The night the first hunters arrived, Kael's alarms screamed through the workshop. Black armored figures breached the bay doors with military precision. Energy fire tore through machinery. Kael threw Saera into a hidden crawlspace beneath the main reactor floor and sealed it. Don't make a sound, he whispered. Through the metal, Saera felt the charge patterns of the weapons before they fired. She heard the intention in their movements. She sent vibrations back through the floor. Warnings only Kael could feel in his hands as he clung to the ship hull. They fought through smoke, sparks, and chaos. Kael was outmatched. Until Saera screamed. Not in fear. In resonance. The sound shattered helmets, ruptured organs, collapsed neural implants. The hunters dropped where they stood, bodies twitching. When silence returned, Kael knew there was no more hiding. The galaxy now knew she was alive. Ending. They ran for weeks. Through dead trade routes, outlaw systems, forgotten star lanes. News spread of a resonance princess. Entire governments searched for her. Bounties climbed into planetary figures. Kael had never run from anything in his life. He ran now. Not for credits. For his daughter. Because that's what Saera had become. One night, as their stolen freighter drifted through the shimmering dust rings of a dying star, Saera stood beside him on the cockpit platform. You didn't have to save me, she said quietly. Kael adjusted the engine output. Yeah, he replied. I did. She hesitated. If I return, my people will follow me. A civil war will happen. Millions could die. Kael's hands tightened on the controls. And if you don't, they'll hunt you forever. They arrived at the Orinx homeworld to find revolution already burning. Signals jammed the sky. War stations traded harmonic weapon fire that tore continents apart with vibration alone. The Emperor's fleet was collapsing from within. Saera stepped onto the bridge of the flagship and broadcast her voice directly into planetary resonance. Not as a weapon, as truth. Her identity shattered decades of lies. The council fell within hours. The Emperor, her father, was captured alive. In the silence after the war, Saera stood before him. You sold me, she said softly. His voice trembled. To protect the Empire. No, she replied. To protect your throne. She spared his life. Exile instead of execution. The new era of Orinx began with sound freely given, not stolen. Kael attempted to slip away quietly once it was over. He made it halfway to the loading docks before Saera found him. You're leaving, she said. Your people need you, he replied. I'm just a mechanic. She stepped closer. You're my father. Kael's chest ached so sharply he almost couldn't breathe. I don't belong in a palace, he said. She smiled gently. Then I will build one that belongs to you. Months later, the royal hangar echoed not with war harmonics, but with laughter. Kael's workshop was rebuilt inside the palace walls. Ships came not for weapons, but for repair, trade, and peace. And sometimes, when the stars were quiet, Kael would watch Saera standing on the balcony, listening to galaxies through vibrations no one else could sense. Once sold as defective, once silenced, now the most powerful voice in her empire. And he, a broken human mechanic, had bought her for the price of scrap, only to discover he had rescued royalty.